Hi, I'm Jenny Jeffress. I'm the Executive Director of the Madison Public Library Foundation. Thank you so much for joining us today for our educational series. Today's event is on hidden gems, and we're going to learn a lot more about Wisconsin's state parks. We're so glad to have so many of you with us today as part of this event. We've been doing these events during COVID as virtual events, and it seems like that is the preference of most people. So we'll continue to do them as virtual events as well. So we do have an upcoming event on June 21st. And that event is going to be kind of a letters to the editor to talk about balanced news reporting. So I think a lot of you may be interested in that one. It'll be at noon also. So you'll be getting more information about that upcoming event. Now I'm going to introduce our moderator, who will then introduce our presenter. So today we have with us as our moderator, Rick Chandler. He is retired from the state of Wisconsin. He is an active volunteer in our Madison community, and he is also a past board president of the Madison Public Library Foundation. So I invite Rick to take over our presentation, and thank you again for being here today.
Thank you, Jenny, and welcome everybody. We have an outstanding speaker today who has some great slides that will give people ideas about places to go to enjoy Wisconsin's natural beauty. Missy VanLanduyt has been with the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources for more than 10 years. She's currently the Recreation Partnerships Chief with the Park and Recreation Management Program. She grew up on a dairy farm near River Falls, Wisconsin, graduated from UW-Madison in agriculture science and horticulture, and she now lives in Madison with her husband and daughters. Her detailed bio is on our website. After Missy's presentation, we hope to have time for a few questions. If you have a question, just enter it in the Q&A feature on Zoom down at the bottom of the screen, and I'll read the questions after the presentation. Thanks to Missy for joining us today, and I'll turn the program over to her.
Thank you, Rick. I'm really excited to be here today and excited to transport all of you out of our snow this morning that we've been having and into some hopefully beautiful scenery from across the state. As you know, we've been doing this technology thing here for a couple of years, but I want to make sure, Rick, can I get a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Perfect. And I'm actually going to share my sound as well, which it's shared. So a couple things, if you haven't grabbed a notepad and pen, you may want that. There is going to be more information on our webpage that you can check out as well. But wanted to let you know, if you're interested in jotting any of this down, now is the time to grab your pen and paper. I'll also let you know that I will be sharing some videos. So if you have your headphones on, you're going to want to turn your volume down when we get to that point, and I'll give you a warning, otherwise it might blast you out. So why don't we go ahead and get started? I'm going to throw this kind of down here so it doesn't block my screen, and we'll go ahead and get started. So out we go. We actually have a branding initiative for the Wisconsin State Park System called Out We Go, which is kind of a funny term, but really essentially what it means is that I'm sorry guys, I'm trying to move this out of the way here so I can get rid of it. There we go. What it means is, you know, we want to get outside and get active. So it's our statewide initiative, which encourages people to improve their mind, body, and community wellness by getting outdoors and active on our state parks, trails, and forests. So this is kind of interesting. I don't know for any of you who have kids or grandkids or family members, a lot of times when you're trying to get outside, you're like, come on, you guys, out we go, let's get going. And that's exactly where this came up. Kind of a funny story, but our bureau director at the time did not like this name. And he thought it was a little bit too fluffy until he was trying to get his 4 kids out the door in order to get them out sledding. And he said, you guys, out we go. And he called me and he said, okay, we can go with Out We Go. So feeling good in the great outdoors, you know, this has never been more important than during a pandemic. We actually have seen peak visitation record highs of 22 million last year, which is 10% over 2020. And in 2020, we actually saw a 26% increase over the previous years. So we're seeing really record high visitation. When there was nowhere else to go, you could go outdoors. And so we saw an incredible number of new people from more diverse audiences across the state that came to our state parks, forests, and trails, which has just been incredible. Our admission pass sales in 2021 were up almost 5%, and our camping, we're seeing a record 27% increase over previous years. Now, we don't anticipate that to continue. We do, it may plateau, it might go back. There's baseball games and concerts and summer camp and all kinds of things that people are doing outdoors now. So unfortunately, we're not going to be the only source of people's respite these days, but we're happy to, see this plateau. We're really excited that we've been able to be that place where people feel safe, that they can congregate with their friends and family and enjoy the outdoors and still focus on their health and wellness. So a little bit about the state park system, and I'm going to just take a second to try to get this to go up here if I can. I don't know if I can. We have over 307,000 acres of outdoor recreation land for you to play on. That includes almost 50 state parks, and I'll give you a little insight. We actually, if you saw the press release or have seen some of the information, we've actually gathered one more property in the last few months, Lizard Mound. I won't exactly call it a state park quite yet. We do have to go through a master planning process to officially designate it there, but 50 was a little bit more of a round number than 49, so I changed my slide. We also have 8 river and resource areas, 15 state forests, 44 state trails that encompass nearly 2,000 miles of rail trail, and 9 state recreation areas. And we manage over 6,500 campsites, 1,500 buildings, and over 500 boat access sites. Now that's a lot for the state of Wisconsin. That's a lot of opportunity out there all across the state, from Lake Superior to Lake Michigan and Door County to Grant County. So where will you out we go? This presentation is designed to show you hidden gems from across the state. I do have my notes so I don't miss any of the fun details, but we're going to check out the Great Lakes areas, lakes and shorelines, forests, recreation areas, trails, and waterfalls and rivers. So coming up, the next slide is a video. So why don't you go ahead and turn your volume down for just a second and we'll get started.
Like a stone, I need some water in my veins, I need some water in my brain. All the experts in my life didn't tell me so. Hold my hand, yeah, you know that I'm gonna cry, and you know that we are gonna take that ride. Our money's on our side, don't need money for tonight. All the experts in my life didn't know that right. But if you try, they sure you do it right. And if you call, we all gonna come, we'll be there till you're gone.
Well, if that wasn't enough already, just to transport you away from this terrible April weather we're having into something more pleasant, I could probably stop right there, but we'll keep going. We're going to start with shoreline properties. And we're going to start with Rock Island State Park, which is at the tip of Door County. It's its own island. There's some really neat things that I love about Rock Island, most notably, your journey to get there, but also the beaches. So there is a lot that Rock Island has to offer, which is super exciting. It's got the historic Thorderson Boat Cottage right here, which is actually used as kind of party central for the Thordersons back in the day. You could actually come in with boats to that undersection. There's an entire floor at which you can get ready, and people would get ready for their events, and then they would go up to the glass area and have grand balls in there, which is really neat. But here is a wonderful video of the shoreline. And to me, this can rival anything in the Caribbean. You can see shallow waters for miles. There's an incredible amount of shoreline for you to watch or for you to walk. And it's just a really great place for families and kids to play as well with the shallow water. That's my favorite part, my hidden gem. It's about a half-mile walk from the boat landing when you come over on the ferry. And I can tell you, I've been there countless times and I've never seen more than even just a few. So this is a really wonderful property. A couple other things I will tell you is that there's actually a lighthouse on Rock Island and it is rumored to be haunted. So if you're into that kind of thing, you can go and check it out. Point Beach State Forest is up next, and that's in east central Wisconsin near Two Rivers or Manitowoc. There's a lot to love about Point Beach. First of all, I will say, if you're looking to disappear, Point Beach is the place to go. There is no cell service. So if you really want to disconnect, get away from work or your other activities that you want to just set and forget for a few days, Point Beach is the place to go. It's an incredibly neat family-friendly park or state forest in which there's camping and bike riding. There's actually horseback riding there as well as several miles of Lake Michigan shoreline. To me, the hidden gem here are two things. One, there's actually a bike trail, the Raleigh's Point Bike Trail, which will take you right into Two Rivers. And that is a really great trail. It connects to town trails as well. So it's fun to be able to bike through the forest and get all the way in to Two Rivers. The other thing I will say is that there's a lighthouse here as well that's managed by the Coast Guard. And if you're a active military personnel or veteran, you can actually rent and stay through the Coast Guard at the lighthouse. So two kind of really neat things about Point Beach. We'll head a little bit further south to Lakeshore State Park, which is located in Milwaukee. This is a really great aerial view. You can see there's a lagoon on your left, and then on the right is actually a marina. So that's just one of the hidden gems here. People don't know. You can moor your boat here. And side note, if you're really into Summerfest, but you don't want to go, you can moor your boat and hear a lot of the music, which is kind of fun. Two hidden gems that I would say of Lakeshore is that this has some of the best prairies in the state, especially for being an urban property. The prairies here are meticulously maintained by volunteers and staff, and it's such a wonderful place to be able to visit any time of year, but especially spring. Another hidden gem about Lakeshore State Park, this is a common view, right? Viewing the water. But one of the things to take note of is that Lakeshore is a great place to view the downtown Milwaukee skyline during the day or at night. We are going to head up to our other Great Lake on Lake Superior and hit Big Bay State Park. So that again is another island, and it is part of the Apostle Island chain as well. And Big Bay again is, I have so many favorites. I think the really neat part of hidden gems is that you can find a hidden gem at every property, especially if you visit all different years. Big Bay State Park has camping, hiking, biking. You can actually bike from the ferry to get into Big Bay State Park. But I think one of the really things that people don't know about Big Bay is that there are many boardwalks, and there's actually a lagoon on the interior side of the lake that was formed by glaciers about 500,000 years ago. So Big Bay Lagoon, you can bring your paddleboard or kayak and you can actually paddle there, which is kind of neat. Big Bay, which many people don't know, I think is part of the many hidden gems here. This is a very accessible park and actually has what was for the state park system, the very first built accessible boardwalk to the beach. So it's a really great property. One of the first times I visited here was in October of a particular year. It's so far north that the sun feels really warm. The water's still a little bit warm, and it's a great place to relax on the beach, enjoy the boardwalks, or just check out the scenic area of the Apostle Islands. Heading back over to Newport State Park, that is again over in Door County. Lots to love about Newport. Quite honestly, it seems to be somewhat of the forgotten state parks in Door County. There are 5: Potawatomi Peninsula, Newport, Rock Island, and Whitefish Dunes. I knew I was forgetting one. Newport is located on the tip of the peninsula, and the hidden gem here is actually one of the trails. So the Europe Bay Lake Trail is really, really neat. It actually goes by an interior lake. So we may be at Newport for the access to Lake Michigan, but the Europe Bay Trail will actually take you by Europe Bay Lake, and then you come back on the beach. So it's a really neat trail. It's got 2 3-mile loops or 3.5-mile loops for a total of 7 miles. And it's a great way to see the landscape of Door County. The other thing that's a hidden gem about Newport State Park is it's actually considered a dark sky park. So you can get views like this in the evening. So many people will go here and they will go to many of our hike-in rustic campsites that are right along the water like this one, and they will do dark sky viewing. It's actually only one of 18 dark sky parks in the entire country. So a little bit of a hidden gem in and of itself. Okay, we're going to move on to our forests in the state. Now, I'll say about forests tend to be some of the most complete areas of recreation, meaning that they provide recreation across all seasons and across all types, from motorized to non-motorized. And so you can really capture a lot of different activities in a weekend spent on a forest. So we're going to start out at the Kettle Moraine State Forest Northern Unit. There are many units of the Kettle Moraine, but we'll start out with the Northern Unit, which is primarily in Washington and Sheboygan counties. There are a number of really cool areas here, but the hidden gem for me is actually the Greenbush Recreation Area, which is flush with mountain bike trails. There are 22 miles of mountain bike trails, and then there are countless miles of ski trails to explore in this area in the winter that are groomed. There's also an equestrian campground with 41 sites, 2 accessible fishing piers, an astounding 31 miles of the Ice Age Trail goes through here, and 3 beaches. Moving to the Southern Unit down by Walworth County. Again, so much really neat things about the Southern Unit that I don't even have time to get into today, but I wanted to let you know that the hidden gem for the Southern Unit, there are 9 state natural areas embedded within the Southern Unit. That means those are kind of protected, specific areas where the natural resources are protected, like this one that's shown right now. There is actually one 35-acre SNA state natural area included within it called the Scuppernong River State Natural Area that is fully developed within the Kettle Moraine Southern Unit. It's one of the largest habitat areas east and one of the largest wet prairies east of the Mississippi River. There are so many great things that I can touch on for Southern Unit. There's over 100 miles of trail here, including 30 miles of Ice Age Trail as well. And the Emma Carlin Trail System is also a really neat place to check out for any season. I've been there in all 4 seasons, and I have to say spring and fall are definitely my favorite, but you can go back time and time again and check out different loops of the trail. Now, the Low Lake Kettle Moraine Unit is a hidden gem in and of itself, and maybe many of you have never even heard of it. This one is actually kind of outside of where Pike Lake is, if you've maybe heard of that unit of the Kettle Moraine. It's near Hartford, Wisconsin. The hidden gem is that this is a day use property, so there isn't camping here. It's very quiet and peaceful, but there's a few things to know about it. There's actually 5 miles of horse trail and 4 miles of Ice Age Trail that go through here, but it's well known for 2 things. Well known in that it's not really even known for these, but it's a great place to check out migratory bird patterns, especially this time of year. And it's an incredibly quiet, rustic place to do paddling. So canoeing, kayaking, or stand-up paddleboarding. There is a boat launch within the property that you can access to get to many areas of Low Lake. So I would highly encourage you to check this one out. This time of year in the spring is a great time of year, again, because of there's lots of prairies with the migratory birds, and then being able, if you're itching to get out and go paddling, this is a great, easy place to do that. Moving on to Lapham Peak. And this one is well known probably for what you're seeing on the screen. This is a great place to go cross-country skiing. It's one of our most popular places in the winter due to the ski trail, and that there is made snow here. So we can actually use snow machines to create snow when we don't have snow in the rest of southern Wisconsin. We can go there. But the hidden gem for Lapham Peak Unit is this gorgeous building here, which is the Hausman Nature Center. This building is 8,700 square feet and was donated by Bernice and Dr. Paul Hausman to the state. And it was completely renovated into a nature center and meeting space. So for your next event, you can actually rent this space out. There's upstairs and downstairs, there's classrooms and displays with gorgeous views of the prairies and of Lapham Peak. So I'd highly encourage you, even if you're out for a hike or checking out the observation tower at Lapham Peak, go ahead and check out the Hausman Nature Center. One of my favorite properties in our system, and again, I probably should say that they're all my favorite because they are, but the Northern Highland American Legion State Forest encompasses several counties in north central Wisconsin. It's in Vilas, Oneida, and Iron counties, and a lot of it spans most of those counties as well. It's over 236,000 acres and has over 900 lakes just on this property. I think this is probably one of the most complete recreation areas in the state, with nearly every type of recreation that can be done on the Northern Highlands. A few hidden gems here. Again, if you don't have your pen and paper out, get them out now, write these things down. Some of my favorites, I visit this property quite a bit. There's Heart of the Vilas Trail, which is a 52-mile paved trail that connects multiple communities in multiple counties. It goes with the rolling terrain of the Northwoods and is a great way to see so much of the forest. I love hiking it, and here's the trail right here. I love hiking Star Lake. That is a campground and recreation area located within the Highlands. It's a great place. What I love about it most is that some of the trail there, you can actually walk in the water. So my husband and I were on the trail and my kids were walking in the water along the shoreline for most of the trail. So it's a great place to check out any season. I also love Trout Lake and White Sand Lake for access for beaches and swimming. The Fallison Trail is a great one for winter or summer. I've actually hiked that one more in the winter. It's absolutely gorgeous wooded property to check out when you want to snowshoe or hike in the winter. And last year I had the opportunity to actually try fat biking on the Shannon Trail up in the Northern Highlands. There's groomed fat bike tire trails up there. And you can actually rent, if you don't own a fat tire bike, you can rent from a few different outfitters to go check out the Shannon Trail system. Okay, moving on to our state trails. These are what we consider the essentially the doorway to outdoor recreation. They're the most accessible opportunity that there is out there. We have 44 state trails that encompass over 1,700 miles of linear trails across the state. It's a great way to see all of the recreation that Wisconsin has to offer. While all the trails don't connect with some road routes in between, you can essentially go all the way from Superior to Milwaukee and up to Green Bay on the state trail system. And we're actually in the process of working through our state trail network plan to continue to identify ways to connect all of the trails. This is the Military Ridge State Trail in South Central Wisconsin. That's my daughter from a few years ago. She's grown quite a bit. And checking out the driftless area in the fall. Elroy Sparta was our first rail trail. If you haven't checked out Elroy Sparta, I highly encourage it. There are 3 tunnels similar to the one that you see here, most of which you can't see to the end. So it's a bit of an adventure to check out. But the state trails, which is really neat, there are a lot of partners that manage our trails as well, especially in the northern part of the state. So we still own the trail and the rail grade, but we have cooperative partners in our counties that help us to manage the trail. So if you're interested in checking out what the Wisconsin landscapes have to offer, I highly encourage you, grab a bike and a trail pass and go out on some adventures this summer. Moving into our recreation and natural areas. So these are just classified slightly differently than state parks with more recreation in some versus natural areas, which are meant to, the natural areas really focus on preserving and protecting the natural elements of those areas. So we'll start with Parfrey's Glen State Natural Area, which is the very first state natural area designated in the state. It's located within the Devil's Lake Work Unit in the Baraboo Hills area. And there is a 1.6 mile round trip little hike that you can take from the parking lot up into the Glen to check it out. This in and of itself is a really neat natural area, is a really neat hidden gem. You get to the end of the trail, and if you're able to, you can scamper over some of the rocks. You can see some of them are nearly as big as a car, but you can check out not only the very diverse plant and animal life here, but what I love about it is it really fits the definition of a glen. So as you're going up into the glen, you can actually feel the temperature change. In the winter, it will get slightly warmer, and in the fall and winter, it'll get slightly warmer, and then in the summer, you can feel it get a lot cooler. So the temperature ranges here are fairly steady between that 40 and 70 degree range, which is kind of interesting. One of the hidden gems within this hidden gem is that the waters and the creeks that flow through here is actually, it's Parfrey's Glen Creek, and is actually a well-known area to fish. So many people don't use it for that. It's primarily for hiking and wildlife and wildflower viewing, but it's a great place to fish as well. Gibraltar Rock is one of those that I think many of us probably thought was a hidden gem, but has become extremely popular over the pandemic. But there are elements of it that are a hidden gem. One thing I'll say about Gibraltar Rock, with it being views, you have views of Lake Wisconsin and views of the Wisconsin River Valley. You're about 500 feet over the river valley here, but you have 360 degree views, and that changes with every season. I've been fortunate to be able to hike Gibraltar Rock during every season, to have views during, all of those seasons, to share what the Wisconsin landscape looks like at that time. But I will also say this is a great place to check out during different times of the day as well. You can get sunrises and sunsets from these vantage points. And it's just a great place to be able to see very vast areas, and it looks different every time you go. So I would highly encourage you to check this out. If you've gone typically during the summer, go during a different season. The other thing that's really neat is the trails here are part of the Ice Age trail system. And so if you're meeting friends there, you can actually put a second vehicle at one end and be able to through hike the Gibraltar Rock segment instead of doing the loop back to the parking lot, which gives you even more views of the Wisconsin River Valley, as well as just areas of the Gibraltar Rock State Natural Area. Moving through to Richard Bond State Recreation Area, I always tell people this is like putting 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag. There is so much to do here, but there are two things that I think are a real hidden gem. The first one is what you see here. It's our natural play area. It's basically a large interpretive garden and play area, an outdoor classroom that we can get our hands dirty, we can play in the water. It's things that whether you're a grown-up or a child, you can actually just play with and engage with, and you can't hurt anything. So our naturalists do programs here as well as our volunteers, but it's a great place if you want to take kids or grandkids to go check it out. Another place that I want to highlight as a hidden gem is what we call our special use zone. So if you're there, maybe visiting the outdoor classroom or camping, maybe biking, you are actually likely to see some really neat activities going on in the special use zone. You can see different things like ATVing, you can see rocketry and rocketry trials, you can see dog training and dog trials, and all sorts of really neat things. This is a special use zone, and ironically is actually a really sensitive area for unique plants and animals as well. So you'll see some of those activities taking place outside of those protection areas and outside of the zones at which sometimes we have times when there's breeding or movement of those species. And so those activities are actually set up to take place outside of that to protect the species that live in that special use zone. So it's kind of fun. I've been there before and seen the rocketry trials and the dog trialing. It's a pretty cool thing to be able to check out, even if you're not participating. Moving on to lakes and waterfalls. I mean, who doesn't like waterfalls? I will tell you a little bit of a hidden gem in general. We all want to go visit waterfalls in the fall. We're always looking for a great road trip and we want to get great pictures, but springtime is actually the time to check out waterfalls. With all of the snow melt and spring rain, the waterfalls are usually raging and pretty spectacular to see. We're going to start out in the far northwest part of the state in Douglas County with Pattison State Park. While this is 5 hours away from Madison, I think this is probably my most visited state park. I absolutely love going to Pattison. This is a picture of Big Manitou Falls, and Big Manitou is actually the 4th highest waterfall east of the Rockies. It's 165 feet. But what the Pattison has to offer is more than its waterfalls. With Big Manitou and Little Manitou, there's a few really neat hidden gems here. This is actually Inner Falls Lake, so you can see this wonderful beach. One thing to point out, look at all of those benches in the background. Pattison State Park is just over 100 years old and was primarily known for day use, where people would come in the summer and they would spend Saturdays and Sundays picnicking with their families back in the 1920s and swimming at the beach. That's why there are so many benches there. So this is a great property to check out any time of year. I will note that fall is a great time to head out on the trails because there is a really large outcropping of sugar maple up here. So the yellow fall color is spectacular. And in the winter, they've got really great ski trails. So a lot to check out at Pattison State Park. And it's definitely worth the 5+ hour drive to view the waterfalls and take part in the trails. We'll move over to Amnicon Falls State Park, which is kind of the sister property to Pattison. It's over just east of Pattison off Highway 2 outside of Superior. Amnicon is, very similar, but different in so many ways from Pattison. Pattison, we view the waterfalls from far away and we get to take that breathtaking view. At Amnicon, we get to see them up close. This is actually probably, I would say, mid to late summer, if not early fall, when the waters are lower. The water, when the spring thaw is going on, this area will be entirely underwater. But you can get up close and personal to the waterfalls at Amnicon. There are stairs that go down, so you can check them out. There are a lot of little perch points on the island, on the rocks, that you can sit, whether you're writing or reading or just want to get lost in your thoughts. Amnicon is a great place to check that out. And they have a small rustic campground here with all non-electric sites, but you can actually rent those and you can hear the falls from your campsite. So what better if you want to be transported to be sitting there with your campfire and your book and your nice chair, relaxing with the sound of the waterfalls in the background. There's just not another property like it. This is the Horton Bridge. It's a historic covered bridge, which is another great place to take photos at Amnicon. But if you're going up there, whether you're camping or visiting for the day, Amnicon and Pattison just cannot be missed. We will move over to Copper Falls State Park, which is right outside Mellon, Wisconsin, just south of Ashland in North Central. Copper Falls, the Bad River flows through Copper Falls from Caroline Lake to north to Lake Superior. And the waterfalls at Copper Falls are really neat. Copper Falls waterfall is 29 feet tall, and downriver Tyler's Forks joins the river and flows over Brownstone Falls. Now, the very interesting thing here is that the gorges at Copper Falls can range from just a few feet up to 100 feet. And there's over 8.5 miles of river that runs through the park. And, the waterfalls are kind of the attraction and the views, but I would say one of the hidden gems for Copper Falls is that the North Country National Scenic Trail goes right through Copper Falls, and it's some of the most rustic trail and most beautiful segments of the North Country Trail that can be found in its cross-state trails. So Copper Falls is a great place not only to go and check out the waterfalls, but to really go and have a nice, really rustic, almost wilderness experience hike on the North Country Trail. One other thing that people forget about Copper Falls, because they're so attracted to the waterfalls, Murphy Lake exists at Copper Falls. So there is actually a lake there where you can rent canoes, kayaks, and stand-up paddle boards in order to access the lake. Moving over to Mirror Lake State Park, and I'm guessing many of you have been there as it's so close to Madison up in Sauk County. And you're probably asking yourself, why is this a hidden gem? I've heard this is pretty popular. It is, but there are a number of really neat hidden gems here to check out. One thing to note is actually we do have a concessionaire here that you can rent canoes, kayaks, stand-up paddle boards, pontoon boats. But what I love about this, it's one of our very few concessionaires where you can actually rent kid kayaks as well. It's a very accessible lake. You can easily kayak it within a couple of hours, and it looks like this. It lives up to its name as Mirror Lake State Park. My daughter's now 10. She was 5 in that picture, but you can even see as a 5-year-old, she's able to use the kid kayaks and traverse the lake. So at the time, I did have my 3-year-old in her own one as well, and she was tethered to mine. So it's pretty accessible for families with kids of various ages. You know, one other thing that I would be remiss if I didn't mention is that we do have the Seth Peterson Cottage, which is a Frank Lloyd Wright cottage and it was the first one of a Frank Lloyd Wright structure that could be rented out for the public, and you can do that today. And you can also walk from Mirror Lake over to Ishnala. So if you want to experience Wisconsin's #1 supper club, you can do that through Mirror Lake State Park. And moving on to Straight Lake State Park, which is in Luck, Wisconsin, in Polk County and kind of west central. This is one of our newer properties, actually, that we have acquired and developed. There are 10 rustic hike-in campsites that have views of the water. There is a more rustic canoe and kayak launch as well, but Straight Lake has a couple of hidden gems. One is that there's actually 2 lakes there, Straight Lake and Rainbow Lake. Great fishing opportunities. I'll tell you a quick story. One of the first times I was at Straight Lake was in the fall, and I went to go put a kayak in, and it was one of those fall nights where the air was cooler than the water, and the fog was kind of, and the mist was rolling up off the lake, and the sun was setting, so the sky was all pink, and there's an island there, and there was an eagle that was sitting high up in a tree on the island. It could not have been more perfect if there was a deer drinking from the shoreline. It was absolutely picturesque. This is a wonderful place to visit. And as many would say, if you're familiar with hiking the Ice Age Trail, the Straight Lake segment of the Ice Age Trail is by far, hands down, one of the most picturesque sections of the Ice Age Trail. Moving over to northeast, east central Wisconsin, up to Governor Thompson State Park. This one in and of itself is a hidden gem. It's located near Crivets. Many people don't know it's there. It's a great place to visit all year round. And that is part of what makes it a really neat hidden gem. In the winter, there are groomed ski trails, and you can pretty much be out there by yourself. In the fall, this is a very popular hunting spot for those of you that are into hunting. The campground is still open. You can bring your camper, RV there and do some hunting. But a couple of the other things that people don't know about, it's actually connected to the Peshtigo River State Forest, and there's some state trails that are near there. But what I really love about it is there's actually 3 different lakes here: Woods Lake, Hubert Lake, and Cauldron Falls Reservoir. So it's a really fun place to be able to put a canoe, kayak, stand-up paddleboard, or boat in to check out those 3 lakes. There's fishing piers, and a fairly newly developed within the last 10 years campground. So this is a little bit out of the way, go north of Green Bay, but even just this part of the state is absolutely gorgeous, a little bit more rustic with plenty of opportunities to get outside. I will tell you one thing: if you're interested in checking this property out in the spring, be aware, wear long pants, bring your tick repellent. This is because it's so wooded and connected to the forest. This can be an opportunity if you're going off trail at all, where there can be more ticks. So that's not a reason to not go outside. You just need to be a little bit more prepared. Moving into some of our river properties. Well, I need to edit that page. Another video here. So if you want to mute, or not mute, but if you want to turn your headphones down a little bit before I push play. Okay, we are going to start out at Nelson Dewey State Park in the far southwest area of the state in Grant County. A few fun things about Nelson Dewey. It's named after our first governor, and the Dewey Mansion, the governor's mansion, is actually still there. You saw it in that video. For those of you that are into engineering or construction, I can assure you that roof has been replaced on the Dewey Mansion since this video was taken. What I love about Nelson Dewey, it's a great place to camp. You get excellent views of the riverway, and you can, if you like this kind of thing, you can hear the train going by at night. A couple of neat hidden gems here. Stonefield Village, which is actually a historic village, is right across the road from there and owned by the state, managed under the Wisconsin Historical Society, but owned by the DNR, and you can actually tour those buildings. But one of the hidden gems here, if you're in for a hike in the winter, is the road is not plowed, but you can actually hike up to these campsites and you get a ton of near eye level views of eagles for the winter. So January is a great time to check out Nelson Dewey State Park. Obviously, there's impeccable views any time of the year, but there are actually different festivals, at least pre-pandemic, that where there's sections of the river that stay open, and they would take boats up and down throwing fish out for the eagles. So there are points in January and February where you can actually see hundreds of eagles outside Cassville and other areas near Nelson Dewey State Park. The sister property for Nelson Dewey is Wyalusing, just a little bit northeast of there. So much to love about Wyalusing. I think in and of itself, this is a hidden gem. I got to spend Memorial Weekend camping here last year, and I just love it even more. I think that many people kind of pass this one by, primarily because of its location, but it's pretty easy to get to. This is highly recommended on my list. Lots to think about. So it is at the confluence of the Mississippi and Wisconsin rivers. You are 500 feet above it. I will say hands down one of the best campgrounds here because you get those views. I was lucky enough to get a campsite that someone had actually canceled. So I had views like this every night, sitting by my campfire, watching the sun go down, the birds go by. It was absolutely incredible. So I highly encourage you to go camping here and check out these views. There's a few other things to think about though. There are actually waterfalls at Wyalusing. There's a couple of trails that you can go on that have little spring-fed creeks that go through there where you can see some small waterfalls. There are trails where you can go from the top of the bluffs down 500 feet to the boat landing area down by the train tracks and really see the terrain that Wyalusing has to offer. But two things that are really fun hidden gems. One is that this property has an incredible amount of effigy mounds. Prior to the state owning it, there were 107 identified mounds here of all different shapes and sizes. And now there are about 64, and most of them are interpreted and can be seen at the property as they are being preserved. So this is a really great place to see effigy mounds. The other thing that many people don't know about Wyalusing is that there's a conservatory there. So you can actually check out the stars by going in the conservatory. The Friends group there and the Star Splitters group will often hold throughout the summer. They'll bring out their big telescopes that you can check out on Friday and Saturday and Sunday nights to check out the stars and the Milky Way. And they'll do that after dark at the property. So generally from about 9 to 11. It's a really fun activity to do if you're at the property. Bruny Island State Park is located in central Wisconsin. Lots to love about this state park as well. The hidden gem here is that it's at the confluence of, and the Chippewa and Fisher rivers kind of go around this. So they kind of come together and go around Bruny Island. And it is truly an island. You'll go across a bridge in order to get to it. It's got a really nice beach, but it's got 49 of the 69 campsites actually have water access. So if you're really into paddling, canoeing, or kayaking, you can bring that and actually launch from your campsite, which is for the most part unheard of for many of the 6,500 campsites that we have. So Bruny Island is a great place to do that. The other part of this property that is super fun is that if you love biking, the Old Abe State Trail connects Bruny Island State Park with Lake Wissota State Park. So you can bring your boat, bring your bike, and camp for the weekend and have lots of neat activities. The Flambeau River State Forest, which is in north central Wisconsin, has all kinds of things to offer. Not only is it a state forest, there's snowmobile trails that go through here and some ATV trails, but it's obviously well known for its river. And a few cool things here. There are many river campsites here where you can actually paddle, and they're first come, first serve. So you can set out on a paddling adventure for a few days or a week. And as you come upon the sites, you can occupy them and then move on down the river the next day to get different perspectives. The other thing which is really neat is that during the pandemic, we constructed one of our first accessible and rentable yurts. So you can find this on the DNR webpage, and you can rent this yurt out for an even different state forest experience. The Brule River State Forest is probably one of the most accessible rivers if you're into canoeing and kayaking. The class ranges on this 44-mile river from 1 to 5. And there's a book out there called, there's two books, Paddling Northern Wisconsin and Paddling Southern Wisconsin. And so if you're really into paddling, you can check out those books, and they'll give you kind of the mile by mile of the different class, where the boat launches are and all that kind of stuff. The Brule River dumps into Lake Superior. What you're seeing here is you can kind of see at the top of your screen where it's a little bit darker. That is actually where the Brule River dumps into Lake Superior. And there's a parking lot here. So if you're not into paddling, you can actually go and check out the mouth. But there's a lot of different parking lot access areas where you can see the rapids, the waterfalls, and what we call the flats, which are these huge sandstone rocks that are in the river where the water flowing over them is maybe only a couple of inches. And as you're going down the river, you actually have to paddle right over the flats. So it's a pretty neat, cool river. It's also well known for fishing, of course. And another hidden gem here is actually the After Hours Ski Trail. And I'm trying to find my stats here. So the After Hours Ski Trail has 17 miles or 27 kilometers of ski trail. If you're into training for the Berkey, this is a great alternative location to view some different landscape and get your training in. So, and many miles of the trail or kilometers of the trail are actually lit at night as well. Moving over to Perot State Park, I have a love-hate relationship with this property because it's absolutely beautiful. You can get views from all different areas of this park. You can view the backwaters like this slide, or you can get up onto Brady's Bluff and view it. I will say though, with this being on the bluffs of the Mississippi River, you know what we have here. We have rattlesnakes. So now they are not super prevalent, but you will run into them from time to time. But it's not a property to be ignored for sure. And the timing of this presentation couldn't be any better. You know, the one of the hidden gems here that most don't know is that river systems can serve as migratory bird paths. So coming up the Mississippi River here, this is a view from Brady's Bluff. This time of year, early April and even late March, is the best time to see migratory birds. You will see hundreds of different species of migratory birds flying up the Mississippi River Valley, and Brady's Bluff at Perot State Park is one of the neatest areas to check out. You can also rent canoes and kayaks from the Nature Center and explore the backwaters. There's camping and countless trails here as well. And there's a nature center. So lots of other fun things to do, but right now is one of the best times to check out Perot. Moving over to Willow River State Park. This is my home park. I grew up in River Falls, as Rick said, and ironically, I'd never visited the falls until I started this job. So I always would go to the park, whether it was for fishing or on a school field trip to go swimming or hiking. I never visited the falls until I was an adult and in this job. But there's a lot to love about Willow River. This is technically our third most popular state park out there, but you wouldn't know it. And there's still areas to find those hidden gems. Of course, you can check out the falls, but I would highly recommend that you check out the Nelson Farm Trail. It's actually a trail that goes on the other side of the river, and you can loop around and get some of the most scenic views of the property. You can get gorgeous views like this of the river flowing through, upper end of the falls. You can get views of Little Falls Lake. of the new dam there. So that's a really neat trail. The other thing I will tell you is that the Willow River in Points is actually a class 3 trout stream, but below the dam at the property, we've actually installed a brand new dam where we put in a mechanism to help control the water temperature to raise the area below the dam from a class 3 to a class 2 trout stream. So really great fishing here. This lake is stocked, so wonderful summer fishing or winter fishing. It's a great place to check out, and you can certainly get lost at this property and get away from the crowds, even though it is our number 3 most popular. So I will move on to our very last slide. Thank you for hanging in there with me today. I want to draw your attention to our social media channels. You can find all kinds of information out about our state properties and all they have to offer, information and education about the Department of Natural Resources. If you go to our webpage, dnr.wi.gov, there's volunteer opportunities, information about these hidden gems. So if you type in "Out We Go" into the search bar on the webpage, it'll take you right to a map that shows all of these hidden gems and more across the state, as well as information about all the individual properties, how to book camping or purchase your online admission pass as well. And then FWSP.org, which is Friends of Wisconsin State Parks.org. They're our umbrella organization for fundraising and special projects. They oversee and have kind of the umbrella organization for our nearly 90 friends groups across the state. And friends groups alone, which is incredibly astounding, are working on projects at nearly every property where they're raising over $70 million for the state park system this year. So that's 70, which is just incredible. So our volunteers, our donors, our partners are things that we could not provide these exceptional experiences without. So I hope you had a great time today. I hope you find time to get out and active this summer and explore our state parks, forests, and trails.
Well, thanks for a great presentation, Missy. I'm ready to get going. We've got time, I think, for a few of the questions that have been submitted. Several questions came in about accommodations. You mentioned the Seth Peterson Cottage in Mirror Lake. Do other state parks have cabins or lodges to stay in? Or for people who might not be interested in camping, are there any recommendations you would have for accommodations nearby state parks?
You know, that's a great question. We get that question a lot. We do have many accessible cabins, which can be booked through the properties. So you can find that on our webpage as well. And we do have some indoor group camps, but we don't do lodging like a lot of other typical state parks do. So most people will either camp or book hotels or things like that. The Department of Tourism website is excellent for that if you're looking for more hotel or VRBO type things, but you can certainly camp. You can check out our accessible cabins, which are more equipped for those that have other abilities, and then our group camp buildings as well.
Got it. Another question was, does Wisconsin have a periodical publication that people can subscribe to that highlights these hidden gems like some states do?
We do have our annual state park guide, which primarily showcases all the properties and what you can do with them. Those are free, so you can get those either through the Department of Tourism, at most waysides. We have them at our events. We're also happy to ship them out to you. Many chambers of commerce will have them as well. So there is a booklet that you can check out that has kind of the basic information in it. We do a lot through our webpage, and we try to post PDFs of maps and things like this on our webpage so people can print it at home or they can access it mobilely. So we don't typically do a printable publication. That is something though that is definitely on my work bucket list. I would love to. We did have a passport program at one point where you could actually get stamps at all the properties, and I would really, it's completely outdated now, but I would love to revive that at some point in the next few years.
And you have a web page specifically on hidden gems, right?
We do. So if you go to the dnr.wi.gov and then in the search bar type "Out We Go," which is all one word, you'll see a lot of different things. So two of our most popular that are up there right now is the hidden gems, which you can print or view online. And then our accessibility poster too, which actually shows all of our accessible features for those of all abilities across the state, whether that's canoe and kayak access, the cabins, campsites, things like that.
You had a few pictures with your kids and other kids. Any specific recommendations for parks that are especially good for families with young kids?
We get that question a lot, and I will say, being an outdoorsy person, I have had my kids in state parks and forests and trails since they were in the backpack. So I think that every property is kid friendly. There may not be trails at every property that you might be comfortable taking your kids on, but there will still be those easy, more flat terrain trails. So I think the most important thing is just get out there with your kids. You can always find something to do. I think in general, the state park system is very family friendly, and we're also working to become more friendly to those of all abilities and all ages. So we're always adding new things, revamping what we've got. And I think that there's just such a wide variety out there that no matter what property you go to, you can find something that's enjoyable for everyone.
Another question was, any recommendations for parks that are particularly good for winter sports, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, things like that?
Definitely. I actually do a winter out we go or a presentation on hidden gems as well. But yes, so Lapham Peak is a great one, which has the made snow loops and it's lit. So that's a great one for cross-country skiing. They're all groomed. Another one down in the southern part of the state is Mirror Lake. That's also very popular for cross-country skiing. Devil's Lake is a popular one for snowshoeing. I would say most of our properties you can snowshoe or hike at, so that's kind of a given. But moving up north, the Northern Highland American Legion is great. They've got cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, fat tire biking, and snowmobiling. So that's a great place to go for kind of all kinds of winter recreation, in addition to ice fishing as well. And then the Brule River and Pattison and Amnicon all have groomed ski trails. So those are great ones for winter. And Potawatomi and Peninsula also have groomed ski trails for winter access.
Finally, maybe time for one more question, a two-part question. What about policies for dogs? And then what do people need to know about wheelchair accessibility?
Well, the nice thing is, again, on our webpage, there's all that information there for you. So first, for dogs, generally dogs other than service animals are not allowed in buildings, which doesn't tend to be too big of an issue. We have a lot of vault toilets and things like that that are easily accessible for people too. So I would say if you go again onto dnr.wi.gov and just type in pets or type in dog, it'll bring up that webpage with all of the rules or restrictions. The nice thing is, I think, again, just to being family friendly, our properties are very pet friendly as well. So camping and hiking are generally very accessible to dogs. It will also list on there our pet friendly beaches. So we do have properties that actually have pet specific areas for beaches, as well as knowing, maybe some other restrictions like our nature trails. We actually have designated nature trails, which have highly sensitive species along them. Those are not open to pets. And I would say one that people always forget about is Copper Falls. A lot of the trails at Copper Falls are designated as nature trails. So if you are bringing your pet and you want to hike, Copper Falls might not be the best place for you. But on the accessibility front, we have, again, on our webpage, if you type in open the outdoors or just accessible, that will give you all of our different accessible options at the state parks. We're always growing that. And so on our Out We Go page, we have the accessibility map, and that is really comprehensive and shows you what accessible features are at each property. But I'm really excited to share that in the coming year, we're going to be adding more accessible kayaks for rental, more accessible kayak launches, more accessible fishing piers. We're putting in new mats on the beach that are wheelchair accessible as well. And my favorite, which a project that I was able to be a part of, is the fully accessible observation tower at Peninsula State Park, where you can actually get views a couple hundred feet over the bay. It's a really beautiful, nice canopy tour to get up to the top of that. So I would really highly recommend checking out Peninsula State Park as well.
Well, great. Thanks for a great presentation. Thanks for all the information. There's a lot of very enthusiastic comments in the chat. We will be sending a link to this presentation to all attendees in the near future. And we'll also ask people to complete a brief survey about the event. We're very interested in your feedback and your suggestions for future events. The presentation will also be posted on our website soon. So if you know other people who would enjoy learning about Wisconsin's hidden gems, please tell them about the presentation so they can enjoy it too. So thanks everyone for joining us today, and thanks for your interest in the Madison Public Library Foundation. Goodbye.